Yeah, we are live. I'll just go mute.
Sounds good. Oh God. All right, so I think we are live. So first of all, happy Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day.
Yes. So what are all of you guys doing to celebrate?
I'm celebrating like this right now.
Yeah, me too. And I'm enjoying the fact that the days are going to be longer.
Yeah. So I'm stuck in the house. So this is my way of celebrating the Women's Day. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Cool.
Okay, I think we can get started, Kushali.
Yeah, you guys are live actually.
Okay. So I'll get started. Hello, everybody. I'm Shreeya Dhakal, and I'll be your moderator for today. In today's webinar, we'll be discussing all about the call for participation process for the Grace Hopper Conference 2020, which is going to be held from September 26 to October 2 in Orlando, Florida. I would like to welcome Sundas Khalid from Google and Vidya Srinivasan from Microsoft for our discussion today. Both of them are amazing and strong representation of women in technology. Sundas is currently working as an analytical lead at Google. She's also a board member of Pakistani Women in Computing. She's a self-taught data scientist and an advocate of diversity in tech.
Ooh.
Vidya works as a senior project manager at Microsoft. She is, senior product manager at Microsoft. She is the general chair of the coveted Grace Hopper Conference for 2019 and 2020. Vidya is also a public speaker and a trained singer. Today, these wonderful ladies will answer your questions on how to submit a proposal to become a speaker at Grace Hopper 2020. So we'll start out by asking a few commonly asked questions, and then we will take questions from our audience. But before that, why don't you just guys say hi to our audience? Vidya?
Oh yeah, hello everybody. I am so excited to celebrate International Women's Day with all of you. And I'm also, this is something that is close to my heart because I've been involved with the Grace Hopper Conference for quite a while, and I'm excited to share this prestigious conference. And this specific event is phenomenal because there are 3 different communities: Indian women in computing, Pakistani women in computing, and Nepali women in computing, joining hands to help aspiring speakers like you come and submit a proposal and speak at the largest conference for women in computing. So thanks to the organizers, and I'm psyched to spend International Women's Day with all of you.
So Sundas, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction, Shreeya, and what a great introduction, Vidya. Hi everybody, I am Sundas, as Shreeya mentioned. I am an avid attendee of Grace Hopper celebration, and I've been attending since 2016. And I love speaking. I love talking about Grace Hopper Conference because it has done wonderful things for me. And I want to share the knowledge that I've gathered over the years. So I've been organizing and also participating in a lot of these webinars that are related to GHC, and I'm very excited to be here today and talking to all of you. So please share your questions in the comments below. We will try to address all of your questions. Whatever questions you have, just tell us and we'll answer those questions. This is supposed to be very casual Q&A, informal Q&A, and it's for you. So ask us your questions, whatever you want to know, we'll try to answer.
Great. So we will start out by asking a few of the questions that we have listed. These are a few of the most commonly asked questions for the proposal, and then after that we will be taking questions from audience. So if you have any questions, then please comment down below. And with that, so our first question is, who qualifies to become a speaker at Grace Hopper? Are there any qualifications as such? So why don't you answer this for us, Vidya?
So there is no qualification to become a speaker at Grace Hopper Conference. And that I think is one of the myths floating around because of the fact that it is the largest conference for women in computing. And last year we had around 25,000 technologists attend the conference. A lot of them are intimidated to even take the first step in going and speaking at this conference, right? So here are a few facts, right? Yes, this is a huge conference. It's very competitive. It's a very, very competitive process to become a speaker. Last year, the acceptance rate was 24%, right? And you have to follow a very streamlined process, which we'll get to in the next questions. But that being said, the only qualification you need to speak is a lot of passion and expertise in the subject that you are willing to speak at, right? So you're not supposed to come there and state the obvious. Then your proposal wouldn't get accepted. So as long as you have the passion and as long as you are willing to put in the hard work and share the expertise that you have, that's all that's needed.
Do you have anything to add on to this?
No, I think whatever Vidya I'll outline +1 to that. You don't need any special skills to be able to accept it as a speaker. You just need to be expert at what you are going to be talking about, and you need to make your talk interesting. And no, there are not like any special prerequisites that you have to do in order to get accepted for a GHC submission. Now that being said, GHC, like speaking at GHC, it's very, very competitive. So they get a lot of applications, a lot of submissions, call for papers. So you have to be good at what you're talking about, and I would say like that's the only way you can kind of like get yourself a chance to speak, get your proposal accepted, and that kind of stuff.
Okay, so we are like talking about passion and like to be passionate and to know about the topics, right? So let's say I think I know enough about my topic and I'm really passionate. I really want to talk at GHC. So how do I apply? What is the application process? How do I apply to become a speaker at GHC? And are there any specific application materials that I should like keep on my mind and like prepare for? Like what is the overall process like?
Do you want to take this on this, or do you want me to go?
You can go ahead with it.
So GHC is like any other technical conference, right? So in any tech conference, if you have to speak, you have to go through a process called CFP, which is called for participation, right? And GHC is no different, right? So you basically have to write a proposal and submit it as part of our in the submission portal, right? So in order to write that, you have to take 3 things into consideration. One is, what is a track that you are going to apply to, right? GHC is split in terms of tracks. And this year we have 20 tracks, 20, right? So ranging from AI all the way through VR, right? So you have enough topics, to go and, speak about. And secondly, once you pick a track, you have to pick a session format, right? And you have 6 different session formats ranging from a panel to a student opportunity lab or mentoring circles, as we call it, to a tech meetup, to a presentation, right? We'll get into the details in a few. So once you pick a track, once you pick a session format, then you have to write a proposal, right? And the easiest way to do that, the path of least resistance to do that is to go and download the sample templates that we have in the website. Right? Like literally for every session format, there is a sample template. Download that, replace the placeholder content with your content, and submit. That's it. That is the process.
Okay, so
straight in the simplest way.
So all these formats and all of the templates are there in the Anita B, like the official.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything is available, and I think as a pre-read, Kushali included an article that I wrote on LinkedIn, which literally has links to every step and where you should be going. So as long as just like reading the article or going to the website and reading the speaker application page, you should be covered well.
Awesome. Then so Sundas, this question is for you. So does the topic has to be technical, or are non-technical topics accepted too?
So that goes back to the straight answer is it can be tech and non-tech, but non-tech is in the sense that it's related to the technical field. Vidya mentioned there are different tracks. There are 20 different tracks. Last year, I was the committee member for Tech for Women track. So just giving you an example. So that track was not specifically talking about a specific model that you build or specific code that you wrote or specific product that you built. Basically that whole track was talking about how technology has helped women in developing countries and how technology has involved lives of women across the globe or lives of anybody in general. So there is a theme of tech, but you don't have to be like a coder to like present your code and that kind of stuff, if I'm making sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like, is there a rough estimate of what percentage of applicants are like technical and non-technical, or like acceptance rates for those? Like, is there any stats as such?
I can take that. The only stat that we can share is the fact that the acceptance rate for last year was 24% amongst all tracks.
Oh, okay.
I'm not privy to share other stats beyond that. But that being said, you shouldn't be thinking about, which track has the highest acceptance rate versus not. You should be thinking about which track am I going to add the most value to, right? Like, which track should I be picking where I can actually bring in my unique perspectives, where I can share something that is going to help the audience walk away with something concrete, right? So instead of doing reverse engineering, I would say go the straight path and then just figure out, what is a topic that you're really passionate about, right? And which track will that map to? And now there are some topics that kind of fall in the borderline of, let's say data science and AI, right? In those cases, I would say read through the track definition. Each track has certain set of focus areas, and that is intentional. That's the way the program is designed. So see where your topic maps to the most and then pick that track.
Okay, with that being said, we have one question from our audience. I'll just ask that for now. How many speakers will GHC have this year? Like, is there a number that has been decided, like we'll invite this many speakers?
No, we don't decide how many speakers, because the number of speakers per session can vary based on what people submit. Like, for example, some panels may have 3 people, some panels may have 4 people, some presentations may have 1, some might have 2. You see where I'm going with this, right? But what we will decide is, once the call for participation closes, we'll look at the total number of proposals that were submitted and the total number of program hours that we need to come up with, right? So if it's a 3-day conference, then how many hours do we have for which we have to, build a program, and then we do the math based on that.
So like this is a very common question too. There are like 6 different formats for the proposal, and so like how does one know which format to select? Because there are like 6 different, and it is a little confusing, like which is the right format for me, and how much importance is given to that particular format, or is it the content that matters? So why don't you like answer this for us?
Yeah, so it's not like what's important to the conference, it's like what you can relate to. So for example, panel, I love doing panels. So, and I have a lot of experience in doing panels. So if I were to like select, I was like, okay, this seems like this is something that is in my areas of expertise. So I will do a panel on data science this year. Or it's totally dependent on what you want to do versus what you think is the conference will accept. So if you're good at something, if you have experience in that, if you have done that, then ultimately you are going to do well in that area, whether that is a panel, whether that is a presentation or a workshop. So I wouldn't go like from the standpoint of, okay, this has the highest acceptance rates, or GHC will value workshop more over the panel. I would say like pick what is in your areas of expertise and then go from there. Vidya, do you have anything to add there?
No, I think Sundas was spot on there. The only other thing I would add is each of these formats need different amounts of commitment and work, I would say. Like what I mean by that is if you're going with a panel and if you're the primary person pulling the panel together, then you have to make sure that you are representing everybody's voice who are a part of that panel. You have to make sure that you discuss the questions and do a couple of dry runs before the session itself. You have to make sure that you're teeing in everybody's ideas so that there's a cohesive flow, right? And that's work. Let's be honest. Like pulling in 5 different people and making sure that everybody's opinions are reflected properly takes work. Whereas in a presentation, you can fly solo if you want. Right? So this also another factor I would keep in mind is how much time and effort you're willing to put in. And it's not just during the call for participation period, it goes beyond that as well. Right? Let's say your proposal does get accepted. Now for a workshop, sometimes you have to prepare, materials to hand over during the workshop. So you have to, take that into account. Right? You have to probably come up with, the technical needs for a workshop and communicate that properly. So don't think of this as, okay, I have until March 25th. I'm going to write something. I'm going to submit and close the doors there. No, it's a continual process from now to the conference if you get accepted.
So, like, what do you suggest for first timers? So, as someone who is really interested in presenting at Grace or becoming a speaker in the world's biggest conference, so like any particular suggestions, especially for the first timers? Like for those who have never spoken at GHC before?
So I would say, you can start with mentoring circles. That's a very informal way. It is less intimidating because you're not put in a room and you don't have 300 or 200 people sitting in front of you. It's a bit more informal, but it adds a lot of value to the student community, right? So mentoring circles is a format where you drive a table discussion with 10 to 15 students or early career professionals, I would say. And every 20 to 30 minutes, the group keeps rotating.
Okay.
Right? So you would get a chance to reach about 50 to 80 people in that duration. But at the same time, it's not intimidating for a lot of first-time speakers. So I've heard from many first-time speakers that they found mentoring circles as a nice segue to get started. Or if you're used to you're a PhD candidate, right, Shreeya? So if you're used to giving tech talks or presentations, then presentation is also a great way, right? If you can tag team with somebody else and you have about 30 minutes to present and take questions. So it is again less intimidating and relatively less face time than a panel or a workshop, for example. Our bar is the highest for the workshop because it's really hard to put together a solid workshop that is going to give the audience something really concrete to walk away with. So we hold a really high bar for workshops.
Okay. Do you have to add anything to this, guys?
No, I think Vidya covered it perfectly.
Okay, awesome. So one of the questions a lot of people want to know is the number of audience. So people are constantly worried about the future, and then more than about the proposal itself, they're worried about the talk or the presentation that they're going to give. So we have this as one of the frequently asked questions is what about the number of audience? What if I have very few people in my talk, or if there is a certain cutoff to the number of audience that should be present there, for a talk or a presentation? Is there any such cutoff? Does it matter? What do you have to say on this?
I don't think there is a cutoff now. Vidya will be the right person to answer this, but from my experience, the talks that I have attended, it's not like if only 5 people out of the 100 people show up, they're like, well, we're not going to do this talk. Most of the rooms that I have been at GHC, they are always full and there are lines outside the rooms to get in. So I don't think that should be big of a concern for a conference like Grace Hopper Conference, because there are a lot of people there and the rooms most of the times are full. So as a speaker, I wouldn't worry about that aspect of speaking. Vidya, do you have anything to add there?
No, she was spot on. In fact, I would say it's the opposite. Don't worry about what if 5 people show, worry about what if 500 people show to your talk.
Yeah.
Right? Because No, I've been speaking at Grace Hopper for 6 years or five to 6 years now, and never have I been in a room where it was not full. So do not worry about what if, less people show up. And you also touched on another point there. Will they let me speak if only 5 people show up? No. Once you're accepted, once you confirm your participation, you're speaking. Right? Well, we're not going to look at how many people show up at the door and then decide, no, none of that is going to happen. There's going to be no, dynamic ad hoc decisions taken during the conference. Once we communicate to you that your proposal is accepted, once you confirm your participation, and once your, a topic and your name is put on the conference program, you're speaking.
Awesome. So I'm taking one question from our audience now. So this is Christine asking, if a GHC proposal is for a single presenter, can it have a full-page bio?
Can it have a full-page bio? Yeah, totally. As long as your proposal fits in the page limit and respects the font size and other requirements that we have, of course you can. You can, but I would say this: do justice to the format. Like, don't write, 3-line introduction and 4-line session format and a full-page bio. Make sure that there's a good flow, right? But feel free to add as much relevant and session-specific details about yourself to help the reviewer visualize what you're going for here.
So, if any one of you can take it. If you're presented as a single presenter, then can you just briefly outline the kind of bio that you would write, or something? Outline the kind of proposal that you write, just so that our audience would know it better. If she's a single presenter, then what kind of proposals she should present. So yeah,
you can take that on this. Yeah.
So you're asking for an outline how it should look like.
How you would normally personally on whenever you propose to talk to GHC, how would you do it? If you are gonna be the single presenter, how are you going to write the proposal, or what is the general format that you follow?
Yeah. So I would 100% stick to the format that GHC has outlined. And I think Vidya previously mentioned that there are sample templates that are available on GHC website. So all you need to do is download that and make sure you fill in with your stuff. So definitely do that. Don't go off the format that has been provided and the template that has been provided by GHC. Follow those guidelines. And then in respect to when you're talking about your proposal, which you're telling this is the talk that you're going to give, and then you're sharing your bio at the bottom, make sure there is some sort of relationship between your proposal and your bio, because you want to highlight that in your bio that you are the relevant person, you have the credibility to speak about this topic. That's the only thing that I would add to what Vidya already shared. Make sure you are showing, you're not just sharing bio for the sake of sharing bio, you're actually telling them that this is the reason, this is what you have done, and this is the reason why you are the most fit person to talk about this.
So they should just focus more on the content and how cohesive all the information that they're trying to deliver is, rather than the format, because the format is actually already been given.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay, cool. So we have one more question from our audience, and this is Hami asking, can the workshop be non-tech based as a newbie in tech industry? I think we've already covered that, and I'm sure the tracks kind of speak about it, but want to know what you all feel towards that. So can the workshop be non-tech based? So especially the workshop.
Your workshop can be obviously non-tech based as long as it's mapping to one of the 20 tracks that we have. The most non-technical workshops that we get are on the career track, which is one of the biggest tracks, right? So in the career track this year, we have a lot of focus around, career management, career mastery, inclusion in the workplace, and motherhood in tech, parenting in tech. There are a lot of topics. And as a newbie, you can speak about your, experience securing an internship, your experience, getting your first full-time job, or re-entering the workforce. There's so many topics, but the caveat I would put over there is don't come up with a topic that is going to state the obvious. Your litmus test should be, if I can go and search it on the internet and get the results, that should not be the topic that you're speaking about, right? Because then if it's going to be an obvious topic, for one, there's going to be more than you submitting the same topic. Two, it's not just worth, it's not worth, and they can go and search the same topic and get the answers, then why would they want to come and spend an hour in your session when they can go to some other session, right? So to your question, yes, it can be a non-technical topic, but make sure that you add some, a twist to the topic itself and, bring in a different flavor.
How to bring in the different flavor that you're talking about, like how to go about that?
I'll take Sundas's, journey as an example, right? She, she came here, she immigrated from another country. Her journey is phenomenal, by the way. You should read about her. So she came to another country and she took a break, she had her kids, and then while she was raising her kids, she also went and studied. She got her master's, she secured a job, right? Now, that's not a common story that you hear every day, right? So she can talk about, one, how do you study when you're having kids or after you had kids? That's crazy hard. I have two really, really young kids, but it's hard, I'll tell you, right? And how do you get a kick-ass internship? How do you convert that into a full-time job while, raising a family, right? And then how do you switch jobs? There's so many things that you can, bring in from your own journey that is not obvious. Like if I'm going and searching about how do I get an internship, I'm going to have like a gazillion articles, right? But there's going to be very, very few articles that talk about how do you get an internship and while pursuing masters while having kids. That's one example.
Interesting. Like that is actually very helpful. Like, taking stories from your own life or from your own experience can be very unique because we all are different people and we live a different life. We all lead a different life. So,
yeah. One more thing I would like to add there, like in terms of non-tech talks, one of my most favorite talks that I've attended at GHC have been like around like confidence building and career development. They don't specifically talk about tech, but they talk about like how like what are the things that you need to do to self-promote and also build that confidence. For example, one of the talks that I attended was from Shilpa Veer, who has been like a regular speaker at GHC, and her talk was on like career development and self-promotion. And one of the things that she talked about in her talk that she got an award, she was at eBay at that point, so she got an award at eBay, which is a great achievement, and like it was a company-wide award and all of that. But then in that talk, she kind of talked about how she actually got that award. It was not because she did all the work and people noticed and they nominated her. It's not that. She did all the work. She was very well deserving, but she reached out to, I think she reached out to more than 50 people. I don't know the exact number, but she reached out to more than 50 people asking them, basically sharing that this is the work that they did with her and if they would be willing to nominate her for this award. And I picked up that from Shilpa's talk, and now I literally do that in my like everyday work, and that has worked so well for me. So that is just going for an example in terms of like, it doesn't have to be like tech related. It can be non-tech. It can be focused on like career development, personal development, and topics like that will help you excel in your career and like generally in life.
Yeah, that is really interesting. So we have like, this is a very important question, and so does the speaker need an approval from their school, university, or the organization they belong to speak at GHC?
I would say yes. And the reason I say that is because they got to fund, you could be in a position where you need your organization or your school or university to fund your travel and expenses, right? So the process is, and this is a very common question that we get all the time. If you are an accepted speaker, you will be receiving complimentary registration to attend Grace Hopper for all days. But Grace Hopper is not going to fund your travel, your hotel stay, your food, other expenses. It's not going to sponsor that, right? So if you are an employee, then you would have to check with your manager or your HR contact to ensure that if you are accepted, would they be willing to fund your travel expenses?
Yeah, just adding on to that, a lot of the big tech companies have a process where if you were to speak at GHC, for example, there is a deadline coming up for the speaking for the CFP.
Yep.
Those, like when I was at Amazon had its own deadline that you would have to follow. So that would either be like 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before. So you would have to submit your proposal to Amazon for a PR approval. And then if the PR approves, only then you can submit your proposal. So there are, like, from the industry standpoint, a lot of the big companies do have a process where you need to get an approval, and they have like the process is very like streamlined and step by step. So you have to like get ready way in advance to be able to meet that deadline for Grace Hopper Conference.
Is there a similar process at Microsoft too?
Microsoft, well, yes and no, in the sense that there are a lot of groups that coordinate amongst themselves to ensure that, you know, they help each other peer review to make sure that, you know, what you're stating is, you know, of high quality, right? And also, of course, the PR point, absolutely. Like everybody, you have to make sure that, one, you're not stating anything confidential, right? You have to abide by the NDAs that you have at your workplace. And two, you also are not miscoding anything, right? So stick to the deadline and, you know, check. This is a gut check, but also if you're unsure, then check with somebody else at your workplace. It's better to be safer than sorry in this case.
So you've already told us that the speakers are going to get the complimentary registration, but the flight and accommodation, none of those will be covered.
No, the speakers will get access to an early hotel block, which is much closer to the convention center, right? So you get first dibs at booking, you know, in one of those, you know, pre-selected blocks as an option if you want, but the expenses won't be covered.
There is one more question from our audience. Hamid is asking, do we need any references for the proposal, like for the CFP? You
want to take that, Sundas, or do you want me to go?
Yes. So you don't need a reference for. This is the simple answer. You don't need a reference for speaking.
You don't need a reference for speaking, but what you should include in your proposal is references about the topic you're speaking, so that you're able to help the reviewers understand why is, you know, person A an expert in topic XYZ, right? Especially if you're coding numbers. If you're saying 85% of blah, 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 I'm like, where did 85% come from? Include that in the references, right? So you don't need a referral to speak itself, but make sure that you're including your references in your proposal to you know, support and complement what you're stating over there.
And then there's like a common question. So we have discussed like what track or what format to follow like would be perfect for us, but especially for technical talks, is there like a track that you would say would be best for the technical talks, of course, like any track that would be the best for technical talks? I'm repeating this, but yeah, so please answer that for us.
Vidya, do you want to take that?
So there's no best track. Every track is different, right? Like we have there are certain topics that will only fall into data science. Then why would you want to pick a track that is not data science for that, right? There are some topics that only make sense for augmented and virtual reality, right? So I would say this: pick a topic first and then see which track it falls into. If you are unsure where it falls because you think it's borderline between two tracks, ask others, right? Like hit us up on, you know, Twitter or Instagram and then ask us, hey, you know, where do you think this topic would fall, right? Or, you know, tweet at GHC and, you know, ask them if you are struggling in some place. We are here to help, right? But that being said, there is no notion that, you know, this track is more popular than this versus that, right? It's about how unique your topic is and how much of a mass appeal it has. Right, like how well you're able to attract the audience, because you got to remember this, right? At the end of the day, when somebody's going to look at the conference program, they're going to have so many options to pick for every hour during the conference, right? Like in every hour, I have so many options to go and attend. And the only data that I am having to make that decision is the title of the topic, your abstract, and who you are, right? So think from an audience perspective and then see if I am reading this title, this abstract and this, description, would I go and sit in that topic? Would I go and spend 1 hour in that session when I had 5 other or 6 other choices to go, right? So don't overthink about which track has a high chance of acceptance, etc. I mean, we do have stats around how the past conferences have been designed, but that's a factor of how many submissions came into that track and how we were able to design a program, based on the total number of submissions that came in that year. That is not a reflection of if you are submitting a kick-ass proposal in ABC track, will that get accepted or no? No. All you have to do is make sure that you're submitting a high-quality proposal and the rest will follow.
Clearly, like speaking at GHC is very competitive. The selection process is very competitive, and we have to do a good job at writing the proposal. Do you have an ideal time to start working on it? Like, when should one actually start preparing for it so that they're on time and they can successfully submit a proposal, really good proposal on time? So what is the ideal time to start?
I think it depends on the person. Depends on like how long it will take you to basically finish that proposal. So let's say if when I was at Amazon, I had 2 deadlines to meet. One is the GHC deadline and the second is the Amazon deadline. And Amazon deadline falls before GHC deadline. And I knew that I need at least 2 weeks to like write my proposal so I could like I could submit at the Amazon PR review. So for that, I actually needed to start like more than a month before. So I think it's totally dependent on the person who is writing the proposal and depends on how much time they need. One thing that I would suggest is like, look at the deadline and then work backward from there and figure out like how much time you would actually need to write your proposal, get feedback if you need to, and then like do any other like company-wide, like need to get like approval from your company or from your school, and just work backward from there and create a timeline for yourself. There's no ideal time.
Okay. Also, like, since we're talking about this, we talked about different formats and we talk about multiple categories, like, multiple topics that we could choose from. Can we submit more than 1 application?
Yes, you can, but you can only submit 1 per session format. And what I mean by that is, if you have submitted a panel, you cannot submit another panel. You can submit a presentation if you want. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you can submit multiple applications. You can even submit multiple applications in the same track, but it can only be 1 per session format.
Okay.
And specifically for panels, some people try to like game the system by, in one panel, they are the moderator, whereas in another panel, they are a panelist. Like I've seen a lot of people game the system like that. No, we catch those. Like we catch those. Our reviewers are smart. We catch all of that. So don't do that, please.
Awesome. So like there is one question from our audience about like multiple submissions. For people who have submitted multiple times to, this is not about multiple submissions at once, but multiple, like for those who have submitted multiple times. So for people who have submitted multiple times at GHC without getting acceptance once, when do you recommend them to give up trying? Okay, this is a sad question.
That's a sad question. I would say please don't give up. Really, please don't give up, because I'll tell you this. There's a lot of factors that go into deciding which proposal gets accepted or not, right? And the quality of a proposal is one such factor. It's one, it's not the all. It's the most important factor, but it's not the only factor, right? Other things like how many submissions come in that year around that topic in that track, how many program hours do we have for that track, right? And how many people from your same organization are submitting, because we have to make sure that we balance and create a pretty diverse and balanced program. Like if you take an example, like Amazon is a pretty big company. We get thousands of proposals from just that one company, and we cannot accept all of it, right? Otherwise, it would not be fair for the other attendees, right? So don't give up trying, because it's not a reflection of you are not being a good speaker or your topic is not good. But as long as you're meeting the min requirements and you're putting in the hard work, I would say it's just a matter of the other parameters that that unfortunately also have a say in it.
I'm sorry, like I'll just add this question because it is part of the same question. This also continues to say, does it matter if all the submissions were done at the same company and the company may disallow the person to submit to GHC again? So it's the part of the same question, So yes, and that's please continue. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to add on to Vidya's Vidya's comment. Yes, 100% agree with that, because it's not always what you should it was because of your proposal, but because there are so many other factors that go into it. One thing that maybe you can do on your side is just interviewing, when you not get a job, what do you do? It's basically the company have different factors that they have to figure out. One thing that you can do on your side is try to see the proposal that you submitted, are there any areas where you can improve next time? So one way you can do that is get feedback from, if you have somebody in your network who has spoken at GHC before, or if you know somebody from the GHC volunteer or reviewer, you can actually, or in your people who regularly speak, you can actually ask for feedback on your proposal. So I think that's the only thing that you can do proactively on your side to improve for the next times.
Okay, one more question on the same line. You said we can take help from the ones who have spoken before or GHC volunteers, but how do we reach out to them? How do we find them?
I would say it's all networking. I don't think Grace Hopper or Anita, Vidya, I'll let you answer that because I don't want to speak and say something that is not true.
I know, but complete your thought, though. You started, complete your thought.
Yeah, so I would say it's all networking. Find the people. I am a big fan of cold messaging on LinkedIn. So if you find somebody on LinkedIn and message them and ask them you submitted this proposal and I was wondering if you'd be willing to read my proposal and give me feedback. So feel free to do that. I'm a big fan of networking and I'm a big fan of cold messaging. So I would definitely advise people to do that and use it for your advantage. And if you need to find somebody that way, go ahead and do it.
No, that's spot on, because there's no, published list of here are all the speakers who have spoken Grace Hopper for the past 10 years, right? There's not, but what I would recommend you do is get creative. Look at the last year's program, right? If you're able to see, so-and-so from so-and-so company, it's probably going to take one more click to find out who that person is, honestly, in this time and age, right? So go reach out to that person. Now, whether or not that person has the bandwidth to review is a whole different story, right? Because when you reach out to anybody, it's like anything else, right? They have to be at a state where they're able to help you. But reach out, look at last year's conference program. Or a lot of people update, come August, September, they start updating their social network with hashtag GHC19, GHC20. And a lot of them forget to change that. So if you still search for GHC19, you'll still find some people who have attended Grace Hopper in the past. Or if you just do a quick Twitter search or a LinkedIn search, you'll be able to find people who have attended these conferences as a speaker or find some posts. It's just a matter of creative searching, AKA internet stalking.
Okay, so we have a similar discussion on the same line. So Hani says, but you don't really get a response from them, cold messaging on LinkedIn, you don't really get a response from them. So can you just give us a trick or tip to, write the right words so that it's back to us?
So there are no right words, but there is right way. Okay, here's the thing. I love cold messaging, but not because people respond, but because if I send message to 10 people, 2 of them will respond. And you shouldn't be discouraged with that, because now I am in the state where I get a lot of messages and I don't respond to everything. And that's just like, as Vidya said, is basically you have to be in the right time, right state of mind to be able to, if you can like help somebody. So don't be discouraged by that for sure. But if you're like reaching out, I'm sure like there are right ways to cold message and then there are wrong ways to cold message. Definitely try to share in your message why you are reaching out to that person specifically. What is it special that person has that you need? So like try to relate to those person's experiences. Make sure like you have done your research. Like for example, I sometimes get messages that starts with "Hi, Michelle." Like I'm not Michelle. That person has obviously is like copy pasting their message to all people. So, and that just shows that they haven't done their research. And if somebody has like actually done research on me, they know like I had like 6-year career break. If they include in their message, they say, "Oh, I'm like on a career break and like I have kids," and like, so I know that person has like understood why they actually need my help specifically to get to where they need to get to. So that just to give you an example, like how not to cold message and how to cold message.
Awesome.
But don't expect a response from everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. So don't expect a reply from everybody and do your research before cold message.
Yes, definitely.
And then reach out to the speakers on LinkedIn. So there is one more question from Sanika. If your proposal get accepted for speaking at GHC, what are the next steps that you would recommend in terms of promoting, networking, and connecting after the talk?
So there are two different questions, right? So one is all about how do I promote my talk? How do I, make it known? I guess that's what the person is asking.
Yeah.
So let's walk through the process, right? So you submit. I think around, I don't quite remember the timeline, but around June is when you get the acceptance or, rejection notice. And after that, you still will be sharing with you a timeline where you have to submit what is called the speaker ready materials. Now that could be the presentation you use, or that could be any other content like videos that you want to play during your talk, or it could be anything, right? You have to submit all of these by a set date in the system. Because you can't carry your thumb drive and come and, plug into the computer machines over there and then, pull up whatever. No, that's not how it works. Everything goes into a central system, and we will be ensuring that your materials show up in that particular room that you're assigned to during the talk, and you pull up from our systems, right? You can't carry and, materials over there. So there's a set, time to do all of that, submit all of that. Now, what needs to happen at your end between you getting the acceptance notification and that is a lot of prep work, right? You have to translate that into an hour or 30 minutes, depending upon which session format that you chose. You have to, prep your, create your PowerPoint presentation, or if it's a workshop, you have to come up with the materials that you hand over to your attendees, etc. If it's a panel, that you have to do a dry run and ensure that all of that is reflected. So you prepare essentially. Right? Now, after you've submitted the speaker-ready materials, for promoting, it's all social network magic, honestly, right? Because your abstract, your topic, everything will be published in the Grace Hopper website, right, in the program. So it's about just you using the relevant hashtags and then, informing people that, hey, my session's going to be on so-and-so date and so-and-so, venue, show up. Right? And also a lot of companies also do that. Like Microsoft, for example, they collect a list of all the Microsoft speakers and they publish via their channels, which has, millions of followers, right? So if your company has one, absolutely piggyback on that. If it doesn't, then you start one, right? Because come on, women supporting other women, right? So, just use social media at your advantage and basically help people understand that, I'm going to be speaking at so-and-so date and so-and-so topic. And GHC also does that for some sessions, by the way, right? They pick, hey, are you interested in so-and-so topic? Come hear so-and-so person speak on this day, right? It's just promoting at the end of the day.
Yeah, just adding on to Vidya's comment in terms of things to do, I think those are some great things to do before the talk. Some things that you can do after the talk is obviously like highlight your work that you spoke at the biggest tech conference for women in tech. So make sure like you are also like, for example, after the talk, you can actually go and give the same talk in other places, including like your actual work or your school. When you're like at work, like when you're doing like your annual self-assessments, make sure like you call that out, you highlight that work. So make sure like people know that you have done that. So there are a lot of things that you can do after your talk that to like promote the work that you have done. And a lot of the times I've seen like, not every speaker, but some speakers at GHC, like they will have like a call to action at the end of their talk. That's a way for them to either build their network or build their community or whatever their agenda is for the talk. So that's something that you can try to like get more connections and build your network that way.
Mm-hmm. So like there's one question on the actual like deadline and the preference, like is the application decision given on rolling basis? Do the early applicants get more like preference over the ones that submit the proposal late? So
no,
okay.
No, nothing's done on a rolling basis. We don't even start evaluating until the deadline has passed.
Okay.
To be honest, the reviewers don't even get access to the tool until the deadline has passed. So only after March 25th, 5 p.m., the co-chairs first go and take a look at all the proposals that has come into their respective tracks, and then they go and start assigning different proposals to different reviewers, and that's how the process starts. So it doesn't matter if you are the first person to submit or if you submitted like 10 minutes before the deadline. That's not going to make a difference. The one thing I would say though is a lot of people submit very close to the deadline. So you can expect glitches in the system, in the servers itself, because there's too much load coming in at the end of the day, right? So as my recommendation would be, as soon as you have a decent proposal ready, go submit. You can keep updating your proposal, you can keep changing it, you can keep re-uploading it until the deadline, right? So go submit as soon as you have something ready, and then keep iterating on it until the deadline has passed.
So there is one question from Christine. She is asking, how often does GHC change requirements across years? I'm unsure whether it is a good idea to start writing the proposal before the CFP opens. Is it following the last year? Is following the last year's GHC samples a viable strategy?
The CFP has opened for this year. It's
I think they're talking about next year.
Like how does it change across the years?
Well, that depends on a lot of factors. That depends on what is the intent behind this question. I'm curious. Like, do they want to start prepping for next year's GHC? Is that the intent?
If they want to prepare really early, and if the formats or requirements are like not available for the one they are going. So let's say I'm applying for GHC 2020. I'm planning to speak at GHC 2020, and I want to apply sometime like really early in the year when nothing is available on the website about it.
You cannot. Okay, so you cannot, first of all. The tool is open only during the 6 to 8 weeks of when CFP is open. So
the tool is open for submission, right? But I want to prepare my proposal like way before that. So if I have to work on my proposal, like if I want to start working on my proposal really early, then does the requirements stay the same, or do they change over the years?
So if you're a person who wants to start working even before the CFP is open, then bravo. Let's put that first. Secondly, there's no concrete answer to this, because the way the tracks for the next year get selected depends upon a variety of factors, right? So last year we had, 20 tracks, but they're slightly different. Like this year we changed a few things. We take into consideration the feedback we get. We take into consideration the data. We do a lot of number crunching. To see which tracks resonated, which topics within those tracks resonated, which audience level did that resonate, right? So as soon as the conference gets over in October, all of November and December is spent doing these retrospective by the core committee, right? We look at all of that number. We look at all the feedback we get. We look at the industry trends to see, does this topic, does this domain merit its own track, or should this be a sub-track in something else? Right? Now, there are some tracks like career and AI and data science that have been around for a while because they're still very relevant. They're still evolving. They're still key topics that the audience are going to get something, out of it, right? So I would say if your topic belongs to one of those tracks, then sure, start preparing in advance, right? If not, the other option is to just wait until the CFP opens. CFP opened like in Feb this year. And then even if you start, just collect your ideas before that. Once CFP opens, if you start the day after the CFP has opened, you'll still have plenty of time to write a kick-ass proposal and submit it.
Awesome. So it's time that we end the webinar. But thank you, Kushali. Thank you, Kushali, of course, for organizing, putting all this together. And then thank you, Vidya and Sundas, for being here today and helping us understand how the process of CSP goes and how we can come up with a really strong proposal. So with that being said, we have various other webinars lined up for students and early career professionals, and we have tons of other topics that we're going to discuss very soon, and we will put all of that in this group and through the social medias of Pakistani women in computing, Indian women in computing, and Nepali women in computing, and hopefully other sister communities too. So thank you for coming today, and thank you our audience for your questions. I hope we answered them. So anything else that you want to say while we're wrapping up?
Well, I would say thanks to Kushali and thank you, Shreeya. You were a fantastic moderator today. And if there are other questions that we weren't able to cover, feel free to post them in the channel and tag me and Sundas. You can tweet to us, you can Insta us, pick your medium. I'm happy to help answer any questions that you might have. And we still have, I want to say, 3 more weeks before CFP ends. So